Oh God, there I am on the TV. Hey, hope you all doing well tonight. This is Reflections, aka JB333, whatever you want to call me. Josh also works. Anyway, been working on this one for a little bit. Haven't had the chance to get on here and do it, or more or less, I've been too tired because honestly, I work, kind of a lot. And, this is definitely an outlet, but, sometimes I fall victim to the anxiety problems or the depression problems and honestly don't get on here like I should. And we just did a podcast the other day, me and Ricky, about talk about DMT. And honestly, I had a lot of fun doing that one, a lot of fun talking about that one. And I don't know, it gave me a little bit of motivation to get on here and talk a little bit more today. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the possible origins, of religion, spirituality, maybe how that could possibly be linked to the idea of extraterrestrial life. This sounds crazy, but I want you to think about the idea of angels, for example, coming from the heavens, the way they're described, like the way biblical people describe stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Going to talk about the Sumerians, what they believed, a little bit about the Anunnaki, because somebody mentioned that to me earlier this week, and I've been consistently passionate about the idea of the Anunnaki. For those that have watched any of my stuff in the past or listened to my podcast, the idea of the Anunnaki fascinate me. And if there's any creation story or myth that actually makes a whole lot of sense, it's that one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And remember that this is live. I am not pre-recording this, so if I make mistakes, it's because I'm freaking human like the rest of y'all. Again, a lot of people like to point out stupid mistakes or grammatical errors, like, they're freaking flawless out here. But anyway, how many of y'all get up at 3:30 in the morning to go to work and then come home and take care of kids all day? That's right, motherfuckers. Excuse my language for people that are sensitive. Anyway, so we're going to talk about beliefs about extraterrestrials across different cultures, from ancient myths to modern day alien abduction stories, delve deep into ancient cultures, how they may have perceived beings from beyond. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, can science bridge the gap between physical and metaphysical in our search for alien life? Another question that's wildly asked about this: possible spiritual implications of extraterrestrial contact. Could contact with ETs push humanity towards a new era of understanding? A lot of people get real bent out of shape when you talk about extraterrestrial life or anything like that, because they feel like, their religious beliefs are being attacked. Like, oh, this couldn't possibly exist because it doesn't exist in the Bible. And if you start to read the Bible from the perspective that we are dealing with beings, from a different planet, it starts to look like a little bit more crazy. I've actually been reading a book called Visionary by Graham Hancock, and he talks about one of the things he's getting onto in the book is the origins of religions itself. And also in the book, The Road, the Immortality Key, which talks about essentially the ancient mystery cults of Eleusis. And they talk about the possible origins of religion being, using psychedelics to commune with otherworldly beings. So what are these otherworldly beings that we're talking about? No matter which ancient culture you look at, no matter what direction you look, anything about religion, anything about spirituality, you could easily make, connections between that and something not of this world, extraterrestrial. That's what extraterrestrial means. Everybody thinks little gray man, green man. And I did put that in the picture because it's funny. But, extraterrestrial essentially means not of this earth. Like Mars would be an extraterrestrial planet, right? Probably doing that wrong. But anyway, so across different cultures, beliefs about ET life, extraterrestrial life, and spirituality is a fascinating mix of science fiction and divine. So here's a glimpse into some: ancient aliens and gods. Many cultures weave stories of celestial beings influencing humanity. In some Native American traditions, for example, star people brought knowledge and shaped societies. Similarity, Egyptian hieroglyphs depict possible UFO sightings, also them dealing with, possible giant beings. Historians have written that off as like they were more important than the people below them. But I mean, honestly, you have accounts in the Bible and throughout history of people dealing with giants. So is it really that far-fetched? They depict Gilgamesh holding a freaking lion in his arm, and he's like, the lion's like a kitten, you know what I mean? And this is like a full, maned lion, but I find that quite interesting. So the narratives blur the lines between ETs and gods, suggesting a connection between the cosmos and our spiritual origins. So I think that the old stories of gods, and I've talked about this when I talk about the Anunnaki, is I don't think that we're dealing with gods. I think that we, as humans, maybe encountered these beings. They perceive them as gods. They may have perceived, hey, this being had this advanced technology, came from the sky. How am I going to believe, anything different? You know what I mean? But, excuse me. I drink my ginger tea. It's good for the soul. Oh, goodness. But anyway, yes, as in the history, if you were to have, say we went back in time with some of the technology we have now, you may be perceived as a god if you were using, I don't know, a cell phone, for example, in times where that kind of crap didn't exist. You'd probably be looked at as a witch, probably burned at the stake. But I don't know how I got there, but here we are. The spiritual species belief. The modern concept views advanced ETs as guardians or guides for humanity. Believers see them as helping us evolve spiritually and technologically, perhaps even influencing major world religions. This belief offers a comforting presence in the vast universe and aligns with yearning for guidance and our evolutionary journey. That's something that I've definitely believed. I believe that like there's guiding forces, and I don't necessarily think when you think extraterrestrial, like these, more than likely we're dealing with interdimensional stuff. And it's the type of shit, that people in the conspiracy community be talking about, like Alex Jones. They're not, they're not elsewhere. They're here. They're interdimensional. It makes a lot of sense when you really think about it. So like the idea of, taking DMT and being able to peer into these other realms or contact these intelligent beings. So, where is these other places? Science has already revealed that alternate dimensions exist. So perhaps that what we're dealing with is not necessarily elsewhere off planet, but in a different dimension altogether than we live in. Just an interesting thing to think about. The impact on religion that, the idea of ET life would have is the discovery of ET life could challenge or strengthen religious beliefs. Some religions might see it as confirming the existence of a higher power or creator across the cosmos. Others might grapple with how ETs fit into their existing theology. This encounter could lead to a reevaluation of humanity's place in the universe and the nature of the divine. And I find this idea fascinating. So again, if, the universe is infinite, right? Like I believe it is, like most science would have you believe, the idea that we are alone here is crazy. The idea that we are alone in this universe is out of this, to me, that's the most insane thing anybody can think of. And a lot of people spout the idea of evidence around, and there's evidence all throughout history, throughout in the entire human written history, documented history. There's evidence of us encountering beings from the stars, talking about, different gods, like per se, giving humanity knowledge all throughout history. Dude, that's exactly how, the Christian religion is found. You're literally communicating with a divine being, so to speak, and giving them a spiritual law, like no different than any of these other religions that talk about the same thing. You're just constantly inundated with this information, and hey, this is what the truth is, and there's nothing else but this truth. And that's always been my problem with religion as a whole, is it keeps you, hey, you can only look here, you can't look outside of here. When you start to question that, it's crazy. But in the past, it wasn't like that. I mean, it was like that, you couldn't question it, but what I'm saying is that a lot more people were able to have these religious types of experiences. But oh man, the struggle here. So extraterrestrials and religion. Christianity, for example, the Catholic Church stance on extraterrestrials and religion. The Vatican has acknowledged the possibility of extraterrestrial life. In 2008, the chief astronomer stated that the belief in extraterrestrials does not contradict faith in God. But the Vatican says it's okay, it must be okay. Interpretations of Jesus' teachings. Some theorists suggest that Jesus could have been an extraterrestrial being or had contact with such beings, interpreting his miracles and teachings as advanced knowledge. It's an interesting take. I mean, if you look at anybody who's ever taken like ayahuasca or stuff like that, they interact with beings that are supposed to be half divine, half, human. And that's the same thing that happened, with the idea of Jesus, is he was apparently half divine, half human, could perform miracles. There's stories like that all throughout history, not just this story. This is just the most famous story because we've been inundated with this knowledge. We've been constantly had it repeat, and other nations and cultures completely destroyed in favor of this knowledge. Say, no, this is it. And we're going to destroy everybody who disagrees with this, which is literally the exact opposite of what Jesus was trying to teach. You think that he would want people to go be destroying other cultures because he's the only way? No, absolutely not. But anyway, so the Quranic verses, some scholars interpret certain verses of the Quran as suggesting the existence of life beyond Earth. The idea of Allah as the creator of worlds can be seen as inclusive of extraterrestrial realms. Indigenous beliefs, Native American tribes, many Native American cultures and legends have stories of star people who came from the sky and interacted with their ancestors. The Dogon is a famous example of this. So the Dogon tribe had knowledge of the Sirius star systems, and they told, people that came and interviewed them that, hey, the star people gave us this knowledge. How could they have known about these star systems and, exactly where they were going to be found in the night sky and all this stuff? If maybe what they're telling is the truth, you know what I mean? But a lot of people, again, would write this kind of crap off because it sounds crazy. But is it though? Maybe. Australian Aboriginals. Dreamtime stories sometimes include beings from the stars, which are considered ancestral spirits. Interesting. It's the same thing with a lot of different Native American tribes, like where the shamans would talk about it, talk about visiting the spirit world, interacting with star beings or different stuff like that. But ufology and spirituality experience. Many people who claim to have encounters with extraterrestrials describe these experiences in spiritual terms, often reporting a sense of profound connection and insight. That is definitely the case with a lot of different stories. I've read a lot of different books on UFOs, UFO abduction, and again, reading the stuff with Graham Hancock, or reading stuff that Graham Hancock wrote. He makes, connections about all this, about the idea that perhaps UFO abduction and like in the past when people are talking about, communicating with God, like maybe that's what we're really dealing with again as interdimensional beings. And sometimes certain people, whether they're in the right mindset or they take the right combination of drugs, are encountering these intelligent beings. Who knows? Disclosure movements. Some movements advocating for government disclosure of UFO information argue that understanding extraterrestrial life is crucial for human evolution. I stand by this 100%. I'm pretty obsessed with the book series The Law of One, and it gives a philosophy that essentially, and this is what I've come to believe, is that everything in this universe is actually one living being, essentially. All of us, everyone is part of one single living being. We're essentially fractals of an infinite consciousness, if you will. And personally, this makes a lot of sense. So it's like with the idea of like when Jesus was trying to, the idea of do unto others as you would do unto the, have them do unto you. That's because this person that you're looking at, that we're talking to, is you. I'm really talking to me, essentially, scattered out into infinity. But yeah, if you ever want to look at that, I would definitely recommend reading the book series, The Law of One. You can go to lawofone.info and read it for free. It's fascinating. It's essentially a set of question and answer sessions with an apparently extraterrestrial source, and it's freaking fascinating, honestly. But I would say if it's if it's like faked, they put a lot of freaking effort into faking that. That's all I gotta say. But I'm running down on time here. So quantum physics, consciousness and reality. Some interpretations of quantum physics suggest that consciousness plays a fundamental role in shaping reality. This has led to theories that advanced extraterrestrial beings may have a deep understanding of consciousness, potentially linking scientific and spiritual concepts. This goes into the idea of like the law of attraction, and that we have the ability to create our own reality or alter our reality, based on habitual thought patterns and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer in this. I used to feel like I had super bad luck, or everything was always happening to me bad. And then I started to read different books on the subconscious mind, started to change how I thought all the time, stop expecting the worst to happen all the time, because that's how I used to be. I've been anxiety filled my entire life. So I've always literally expected the worst thing to happen in every freaking thing that ever happened to me. It's like, oh my God, yep, I'm going to die today. You know what I mean? And I started changing the way I thought. So anytime something negative would come up, I would supplant that idea with something positive. And some people would call it, oh, it's toxic positivity. But I disagree with that. Obviously, you're going to have things that happen that you can't be positive about. But you can change the way you think about yourself. You can be like, I'm worthless. Instead of doing that, I am worthy. There's things that you can do every day to change that. And that's how the idea of consciousness can affect your reality. Plus, if you read books like Think and Grow Rich, it can change your entire perspective on how, the rich have attained money. But let's see what else we got. So closing here, do I believe that extraterrestrial life and spirituality and stuff are linked? Yes. So I think that the idea of religion, spirituality literally come from an extraterrestrial source. So I think that God is all of us interacting with all of us. So that God is the source. He's the source of this entire universe. So I don't believe that God is coming down here essentially and interacting with us as God. I think that we have different interpretations of one universal truth, and we have had different spiritual teachers come down, or, people have been able to contact them through taking psychoactive drugs or going into trance states spontaneously, which is suggested through like different studies about the brain releasing DMT. But I don't necessarily think that your one religion is correct, because, where is your proof in that? Where is your proof that your one religion is correct? Throughout history, these religions have pitted us against each other rather, and do entire crusades, entire populations of people slaughtered based on my belief is better than yours. My God is better than yours. And that doesn't make any sense for your religion to be about love, and then you go and slaughter everybody. It doesn't make any freaking sense. You're basing your entire life off a book that you don't even know the history of. And if you actually look into the interpretations, look into the history, you start to realize that, like, where does this all even come from? Again, I can only show you the door. You know what I mean? Like, it's up to you to seek out knowledge and seek out information. My views have changed as I've taken in new information over time. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't practice a religion. If you want to practice a religion, by all means. But do I believe that other cultures should be destroyed because of your religious beliefs? Absolutely not. That's so stupid. So, again, like throughout history, we've been pitted against each other for what? We're all living the same freaking experience, whether we like it or not. Doesn't matter what we look like, where we come from. We're all literally in this crap hole together. But anyway, so this is my talk. I do want to touch on the Anunnaki before I left, because I do think it's important. So if you've never heard of the Anunnaki story, this is something that got me started on a lot of different rabbit holes. So the idea of the Anunnaki is that essentially their planet was going to be destroyed. I'm going to do a little shortened version. The planet was going to be destroyed. They went out, essentially ended up coming here to mine gold so they can suspend it into their atmosphere, or as their story goes, so they can suspend it into their atmosphere and block out the sun's rays, because they had destroyed their ozone layer like we are. And apparently, again, they came here, were toiling away in the mines forever, ended up getting tired of that. So what they do, they found a hominid, an existing hominid on this planet, jump-started its DNA with theirs, created a essentially slave worker, or the Adam, as they called it, and had the slave workers do the mining for it. That's why mining, a fascinating fact about gold mining is it goes back to the dawn of civilization. And who in the world taught somebody how to mine ore? That's the thing that trips me out. It's like, it's not about just finding the stuff in the rocks, bro. Somebody had to have learned somewhere how to mine this crap a long time ago. You know what I mean? These are the kind of things that make this stuff plausible. And again, all the different texts from around the world that talk about this and correlate with this. And if you start to read the stories on the Anunnaki, the Sumerian tablets, the Enuma Elish, like, you start to realize that maybe the Bible is a condensed version of these older texts. And it makes a whole lot more sense that the God of the Bible actually isn't the God of the Bible or the true God. This is a advanced being who wanted to keep us under his boots, so to speak. And that's why when people didn't listen, he slaughtered them by the millions at times. This is not the loving God. You know what I mean? That isn't. You can't be an all-loving God and destroy mankind. That is, if I love my wife, for example, I'm not going to beat the shit out of her, because that's not love, because she didn't do something I liked. That's not love. Anybody who thinks that is stupid. You know what I mean? But anyway, essentially, if you really read into that stuff, it's freaking fascinating. It's mind-blowing. But about out of time tonight, my friends. I will continue this probably next week. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Oh, I got a chat. Old Testament God was vengeful. Yes, sir. Old Testament God was vengeful. We know what we're talking about. We're not talking about, I know, like, the Old Testament God. People will be like, oh, that was the Old Testament God. But what about the New Testament God? Same God. Anyway. But that's why it's like, it's yin and yang, man. It's like, this guy was super evil, killed whole cities, and then this guy was good. He's decided he wasn't going to kill mankind anymore after he flooded the earth and destroyed everybody. Like, well, seems like he needed to destroy his creation that he created based on humans violating the rules that he came up with. You know what I mean? I don't know. But anyway, again, I need to go to sleep now, so I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Appreciate you checking on me. Have a good one, Mr. Ricky. I should have told you earlier, man. You could have came and fucking chatted on here with me. Next Thursday, we should do that. Should just maybe we could try to do 2 a week or something. That'd be fun. It's much easier to bounce stuff off people when there's people here, and I'm talking to myself. It's kind of a pain in the ass.